I'm Ryan, this is my brother Daniel, and this is Rolls in the Family. Today we are going to be counting down our top 3 board game plays of November 2023. We would love to also hear what your top recent board game play is. If you want to drop that in the comments below, we will have links to all the games we talk about in the description. If you want to check those out, purchases through those links do also support the channel. Let's get right into it, though. I tell you, Daniel, there's months where, this is easy to come up with 3. This was not one of those months. And I know that for a fact you agree, because we definitely did some gaming together. We had some family time, got some good games in. So this is definitely a month for me that I'm leaving off a couple that just saddened me that I'm not going to talk about a few of these plays that any other month probably would have made it. But very interested to see what made yours. And let's just kick it off with your number 3.
Yeah, there's some months where I'm scrambling to even get 3 plays in. This was not one of those months. Ryan and I got some overlap together on a family trip, which makes these even more fun or devastating, depending on if Ryan doesn't include any overlapping games with me.
Yes.
But I totally agree. There were some heartbreaking ones to leave off. I was wanted to almost just do an extended edition, but that's not how this works. So we are going to have
those
3
games
good ones
didn't medal. Only 3 games can be on the podium.
I know. It was really tricky. I was agonizing decision, but here we go. Starting off with my number 3 play of November. This was one I wanted to leave off. I so wanted to because of... Isn't that a great intro? I wanted to leave off because I took last place, but it was a game that we played together with a group of 6. The first time playing this game at 6 players, and this goes to Heat Pedal to the Metal. So yes, I took last place in this game, which, and I think that honestly is a testament to just how great of a play this was, because, we've played, so Ryan and I each both own Heat, recent edition this year. It's kind of the latest rage in the board game world. And so we've been able to play it each several times. Every time I've played up until this point, I always include the Legends module to kind of include some computer racers, and that works great. But this was the first time having a full 6 human players, and it was exhilarating. That was just the feeling I had the whole time. Was this is just such a beautiful system of giving me that feeling of a thrilling race. We come out of the gates and there's just so much. I think really what impresses me most about the game is that obviously it's all in kind of the card play, the managing, of your hand and your deck, managing those heat cards, but how much there really is opportunities to make a big move, to catch up for these kind of moments where, you look at a player who was in last place at the start of the turn and they make this crazy move and end up, in first place or something. Not because of not just a total luck mechanism, but just the way things all shook out and played together, that they were able to make this incredible move. And I think the game does such a great job at not feeling out of control lucky at all. You totally feel in control, but also not falling into what maybe some racing games might feel, where a person just gets ahead and you never can catch up. You really do feel like if you push it and you make certain moves, that you can catch up. And I just, and I think you would agree, this game, there was just so much shifting of leader and falling back. And even though I kind of fell behind towards the end, I even made a couple moves and got close, but ultimately and ended up not being able to. But just watching it all happen, it's man, this is the dream of what I've wanted from a racing game.
I know, it's really knocked it out of the park in what I would want out of a racing game. And I'm very glad you put it on your list, because this is one of the ones I was so sad I wasn't gonna get to talk about.
That's what I was thinking. I was trying not to overlap.
Yeah, I actually, it's Daniel, just get these in here. Yeah, I'm glad you put it on, because I did want to talk about it. It was a great game with a full 6 players. I was on the other end of it, that I was way behind and ended up coming back and getting first place. We actually had the very exciting ending of I got all the way to one away from the or I was like 2 spaces behind the other player who had crossed the finish line, but I had the ability to spend a heat to boost. And when you
Yep.
boost, you're going to draw, cards from your deck until you get,
Yeah.
it's either going to be a 1, 2, 3, or 4. And it was like, if I get a 3 or 4, I win. If I get a 1 or 2, I'm going to get second. And I
It
got a
was so
3.
exciting.
So it was just like
It
this
was-
exciting ending.
Yeah.
But I totally agree, more than any of my other games of Heat so far, it showed me like you're not out of it. Like, because I thought I was out of it.
Yeah.
Me and your wife coming into the second lap, it was just a 2-lap race. We looked out of it. Like, we
you
were
guys
way at the back.
we were mocking you guys.
Yeah, but there's like it just shows that you like can get back into it, and there's a lot. It's also when you get into those long straights, it's like, oh, everybody can go as fast as they can, but there's a big difference in how fast you can go depending on how you strategized through the curves. Because the reason I was able to make such a big move at the end is because I was just choosing to hold on to a lot of big cards through the curves, which was risky because, if I'm basically having less cards in my hand I can use to manage these curves that these are way too big for. But I was like, if I'm going to have a chance, I need to have like, 5, 4, 4 coming out of that last curve.
Yeah.
It really was just a great play. And yeah, I think that was my biggest takeaway, was just the ability for things to shift. The other thing that I thought was really cool that I don't know either of us had seen in a game of Heat yet, and it kind of happened by accident with one of the other players,
I know
was that he went through 2 turns in one move, and it like worked fine because the speeds of the turns were like 4 and 5, and he with like 6 spaces, speed of 6, cleared them both because I think he may have drafted or something.
Yeah, he was right behind the first one and then moved and then drafted just past the second one or something.
Yeah, and we were like, wait, is that okay? Like, can he do that? And we're like, oh, you just check you resolve them in order. And because his speed was okay on both, we're like, wow, that like you caught up like 2 turns by doing that.
Yeah, getting ahead of a curve is, that's the whole game really, is you're trying to see how quickly you can get past those curves to get through 2 in one turn. It was an incredible move. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was cool to see that, and like it just added another layer and different feelings to different tracks, because some tracks have those curves that are close together and some don't, and it is just interesting how that plays out.
Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to exploring all the other I've played a few times with all the we didn't do the customized
Yeah, we just did
where
vanilla. We didn't do the weather
special
conditions
cards
either.
we didn't do weather or anything like that. We were playing with some new players, but wow. It's a game that like, man, they are my money's just sitting right here waiting for them to put out more maps, more.
It's true though. I tell you, the base game's got so much in it. It really is like they included an expansion in the box with 4 tracks and these other modules. So yeah. It's great.
Yep, that was a ton of fun. So there you go, Ryan. Ryan paid me off beforehand to include it. Talk about
Appreciate
a game you took first in. There is my number 3 play, Heat, Pedal to the Metal.
It's interesting. The guy that took last put it on his list.
Yeah, a little fishy. Well, people stop watching if they find out this is all just rigged, and we actually
don't play any board games. We just we read about them online enough that we can like.
Well, I usually just ask ChatGPT like, what should I? What?
True.
Tell me what I should talk about with.
You have a teleprompter, and you're just we're just phonies. My number 3 is a game that we're planning on reviewing soon, and I had kind of picked that as one that we were going to review soon before this whole family vacation thing, and then we proceeded on the vacation to play it 5 times on this trip, and this
way
is
too late.
Yes, and very late at night. And this is So Clover. And I knew I really liked So Clover, and that it's been kind of the biggest party game hit out of party games I've tried in the last year, maybe even multiple years. But man, on this trip, we had 2 back-to-back nights, one that we played it 3 times in a row. And this is like late at night. Kids have gone down, last game of the night. Everybody's like tired, but we also know this is like our only opportunity to have everybody play something without the kids. It's like, come on, let's do it. But man, was it just a great session of laughing together around this game. And it just made me realize how well So Clover works for that situation. Like everybody's kind of slap happy and out of it, and like it just the conversation around it just creates so many funny things as people are like trying to justify different ways that you could turn the cards to make different associations. And yeah, I mean, the fact that like it's late at night and people are going, let's play it again. That time we played it 3 times. Our mom was wanting to stay up even later. We had to be like, calm down, Mom. We gotta
like,
go
Mom,
to bed.
slow down here. I know.
Yeah, but yeah, it just was. I think it boosted So Clover on like my party game tiers to really a top tier, one of my favorites.
Totally.
You know, when I was playing it, and even as we were getting into like the 5th time playing it within 24 hours, I'm thinking to myself, this is just a game I almost always am up to play. Like when people suggest it, I can't think of times that I've gone like, oh, I don't really feel like playing So Clover. Like it just has a very, I don't know, a very enjoyable experience. It's got enough game to it of like, let's try to solve this puzzle, but then it's still pretty light and relaxing and just facilitates a lot of good conversation.
Yeah, well, it's got like kind of different, very distinct parts of the game. I mean, and sometimes I do have to warn people, like that first part of the game of coming up with clues that takes some mental, depending on the cards you get. Sometimes it's easy. Sometimes it's very difficult, which I laugh because our dad was asleep on the couch. We wake him up, walk him over, and sit him down.
Yeah, you're playing this.
Having to make these mental connections
between. We almost broke him.
We almost broke him, but he got through and he did great. But so there's kind of that part where everyone's kind of silently like, oh, and you sometimes hear the groans of some people like, oh my gosh. But then it is just so fun. Every part of the next, thing where you're going through every single person's thing is so fun, including I sometimes have the most fun when it's my one,
just listening,
and I'm just sitting there listening to them give all of these like, now would Daniel do this for these 2 words, and you're like inwardly just laughing so hard because. And then
there was specifically a time where I don't know who in the group was saying, there's no way Ryan would have thought this for this. And I'm like, that's exactly what I thought.
I know. And it's just fun that entire time. It gets a little bit of kind of the almost Codenames feel of like the challenge of trying to get to, an association together. Yeah, man, it's worked so well and just gone over wonderfully. Yeah.
Daniel had the brutal clue that he decided to he wanted to emphasize what, like a big volcano or something, and I think you had to look it up, right? Like, and you put Mana, which apparently is like the largest volcano. Well, none of us have any idea.
Knows that?
We flipped the Clover and we're like, what the heck is Mana? And so that was a very funny round because we're not only trying to figure out the associations, we're trying to, based on the associations, like define a word that we don't know. We're like, well, if it's this word and this word, maybe Mana is like...
Right. I was like trying to connect lava and I want to say peak or something about like big or something like that.
Yeah,
it was like volcano, but the biggest one. Well, that's not a good clue when
nobody knows it. I did say at one point, I was like, maybe it's like a big well-known volcano or something.
And in my head, I'm like,
yes. So great session. It honestly is just, we've talked about Just One as being one of those games that it's like you could recommend to just about anybody. So Clover isn't quite as like accessible, surefire, but I enjoy it quite a bit more personally. And it still has a pretty low barrier to join. I actually, coming out of this trip, was like, man, do I want to buy another copy? Because there's nothing that would prevent you from playing with more than 6 players other than not having enough Clovers.
Right.
Because sometimes with party games, 6 is kind of a hard limit because you're often past that when you're looking at those types of games.
Yeah.
But yeah, good stuff. Very It sometimes can be hard for party games to make our top 3 just because we like our strategic.
Yeah, no, totally glad you brought that one up. Yeah,
but it was good ones.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Okay, we're gonna head over to my number 2, a game we did not play together. Has previously been one of my favorite games of all time, and this is a pretty bold statement here, which is honestly shocking. That's not my number 1, but I might have had the most fun / epic game of this month, and that goes to Star Wars Imperial Assault. So like I have mentioned
now
in
that
previous
Daniel's
videos,
campaigning again, it's just going to be every month.
I'm just going to be spamming content. Hey, it's a testament to the game that it delivers. So yeah, we got to get a couple plays in of it again. The Imperial struck back, beating us in the first game.
That's what the movie's called, right?
Yeah, Imperial. Right. That's the knockoff.
We're big Star Wars fans. So.
It's the knockoff version. Yeah, so we so it beat us down, and then it was even tougher because it was in the kind of not up like the upgrade phase, kind of in between missions. We're doing all of our upgrades. Well, the Imperial side bought a side mission that essentially so normally after doing a main mission, you then choose one of 2 side missions to do. But he paid for a 3rd side mission to come out, which is like a special one for him. And if we don't choose it, he just gets the reward. So we're like, so you either to go do this really hard mission or you just give him a good thing. So we're like, okay, well, we got to go do the mission. Plus, I had never played that one before. So I was like, oh, that sounds fun. So we choose this mission. So already we're like, in the, the Empire's, I think ship or whatever. And we're invading in. But then we're already going in and things are looking really tough. And then he drops one of his cards that he can choose. I don't know if you pay for it, but he can choose to bring into a mission was Darth Vader. So on top of the whole mission, he drops Darth Vader into this mission that normally he wouldn't be there. So we have the normal kind of big guy that we're trying to take care of. And then Vader's just over here and he's just absolutely brutal. And, he's so cool. I mean, he's got all these abilities that he can force choke, and he's, horrific. And things were just looking so dire. I mean, I run in and I've got this little girl that's kind of dodging around and stuff. And I was overly confident. And I tried to I step into this room and I just get obliterated. We're the first turn in the game and I've already been flipped to my other side. And if he kills me, once you're on your wounded side, if he takes all your health again, you're out. You're taken off the map. And so I'm losing health. And he was very close to taking me off the map the second turn of the game. Now, afterwards, he said it was out of sympathy that he didn't do that, didn't want me going home. Afterwards, I don't know if that was true, but anyways, so I was able to escape and heal up, but still just looked absolutely horrible. We're just scraping by, and this is where these types of games are just a peak for me. Is anytime it's just there's no hope, but you're just okay, we're just holding on. We have to he's blockading the thing that we got to push through to get to the final guy to kill him, and we're running out of time. But we're able to kind of make a move and get through, and it all came down to the final turn where it's okay, we've got one shot on him, and we're gonna take the shot and fire, and we ended up pulling it off. And man, it was so epic. Just across the board epic. We had a ton of fun with it. And so, yeah, it was just reminding me of how epic that game really is, especially as you're adding all the upgrades and there's so many missions and the branching paths. But I just find the core system of moving around the map, this map here, and you have to be so strategic because the Empire is very threatening. It was a ton of fun.
Very nice.
Yeah.
It's one of those games that I'm the likelihood of me ever playing it is pretty low.
Well, you're playing the Lord of the Rings version of it.
True. Lord of the Rings, it's pretty different, honestly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess that's Journey's Middle-earth is the closest.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm
parallel.
curious, does Lord of the Ring, I mean, because this game, it's a ton of just like, you know, the map is just squares and it's a lot of just kind of like navigating tight corridors, moving around, strategically positioning, kind of. Like I would imagine it's got a similar
Yeah, I mean,
feel for
it
that.
sounds Imperial Assault, I think, is a lot more of that like tactical grid combat.
Yes. Yeah.
Lord of the Rings is a little bit more like less spaces, like it's less about maneuvering and positioning on the spaces as much as like, am I in the same space as something versus how many spaces away from something.
Yeah.
So I think it's a little bit less of that like tactical grid feel. It also doesn't use dice, right? Because Imperial Assault, you use dice for most resolutions,
Interesting.
right?
So what does
So the whole system in Journeys of Middle-earth is you've got your deck, your personal deck of cards that are your cards that you can get and like equip to use their abilities, but it's also how you resolve skill checks because they have successes or not successes on the deck. And so there's some kind of clever stuff you can do with the deck building or like the deck manipulation, because whenever you get to scout your deck, you get to decide, like, do you equip this thing or do you put it back on top of the deck or back under? So if I get one of my good cards that's a success, I could like put it on top and know that I'm going to get a success in my first test that round. So it's kind of some interesting other stuff there. You maybe sacrifice a little bit of just the raw thrill of dice rolls. But I also think it is one of the biggest strengths of Lord of the Rings is just kind of the fun of that deck system.
Yeah, and it's fun. It's fun with the dice. You know, they've got kind of these icons called surges, which are kind of basically the icons to activate abilities that you have on cards and stuff. And so you can get a lot of combos happening with that. Especially some dice have a lot more surges, but less damage than other. Like the dice, I feel do a really good job of kind of catering to the feel of the character. So you know, Garkon, the big Wookiee, he's rolling just tons of red dice, which are just damage. Like they have very few surges, but they're just doing tons of damage. Like I think about the defense dice, there's kind of two different ones. There's the black one, mainly is like for kind of just blocks, like lots of blocks, good at blocking damage. The white one has very few blocks, so you're gonna get hit a lot, but it does have a full evade on one of the 6 sides. So it's like you're more nimble, and so if you get hit, you're gonna get wrecked, but if you can do the full evade, which is really exciting. So I don't know if that's super common with a lot of these type of games, but I just know in Imperial Assault, the very dice make each character feel really unique, and the weapons feel unique and all that sort of stuff. So it was wonderful. We are having a blast. It's been everything I could have hoped for coming back to this game. It's just like both. It's like a little bit of nostalgia because like I played it so much way back, but we are having a great time. So yeah, my number 2, Star Wars Imperial Assault.
Very nice. Speaking of games that I would say were everything I would have hoped for, there are a lot of times where new games coming out get hyped on the interwebs. And we've had times where something that sounds like it's going to be the greatest thing ever is like fine and doesn't stick around and doesn't prove to last the test of time. But I have to say, our first play of Earth was pretty much everything I was hoping that game would be. Now, it is very much, we knew it's in our wheelhouse as far as the kind of card combo engine building with simultaneous, you're getting to play on other people's turns. It's like, okay, we love all this stuff. A giant deck of cards where like every card is different and, you're going to have so many different. So I knew the odds were good, but we had a great first play of this. It was just 3 of us. And I guess the first thing I'll call out is 3 of us brand new. We finished in an hour and 20 minutes, like including scoring, which just made me realize like, if we all knew how to play, it's almost pushing closer to an hour-long game, and it does not feel like
that. When you said that length of time, it blew my mind because I felt like I've just played like.
And it makes sense when you think about it, because on every person's turn, you're getting to activate an action and potentially activate any cards matching that in your grid.
Yeah.
And so compared to a game where you're only taking your own turns,
Yeah.
Like it's the density of turns is so much more. So you feel like you've done so much in a shorter amount of time. And you know, so you're building up this grid of 4x4 cards. And it's all revolving around those 4 basic actions that aren't doing anything honestly that exciting. It's get resources, get cards. In fact, nothing in the game is that flashy. It's like you have to really love the just like getting cards, producing things, and like you know, just that rhythm of things. But man, it's so satisfying. And I think a big reason why is you get to activate your stuff so much. Like when you put cards out that trigger on a certain ability, like every person's turn, you're triggering some of those. And I just think compared to some other similar games of like engine building or getting powers, you just get to use your powers so much more often here.
Totally.
And, you know, I had this thing going, you know, I also think we had very different strategies, like looking around the table at what people were doing. I had this whole thing that I was like creating the growths, lots of growths on my board, but to spend them. So I had abilities that I would get rid of the growths to do things, and then also get rid of my compost or whatever that pile is. And so there were actually times where I'm like, oh, I'm almost out of compost. Like I need to do some of that so I can keep powering these abilities. And yeah, it's just so satisfying. It's not very interactive, other than like there's some shared.
This is very much a solo feeling.
There's some shared goals that are good to like keep an eye on. Like, are people getting close to these? Because the earlier you claim them, you get more points. But yeah, it is the satisfaction for this game is working on your own little grid and firing off all the abilities. And I like the fact that the triggering of the abilities is like left to right, top to the bottom, because that actually makes your grid arrangement matter. Like there were times where I was like, okay, I want to get this growth ability sooner because I have so many things that require spending growth that if I like trigger those, I'd ideally want it to trigger in that order. I loved the beginning. You know, anytime we like games where at the very beginning you're given a few options and it's like choose them, and from the very beginning you have this unique start. It has that with the like choose your side of your island, your side of your what was it?
I was because you've got your island, your climate, and then also
I will say compared to other games, it's a lot harder to remember like specific cards in this because it's just like plants and dirt and stuff. Like I don't like remember any specifics.
Yeah, it's you get your own personal island, climate, and then I think that's environment, which there's also the public ones, but you get your own personal one as well. Well, I'm just going to jump in here, Ryan, because that's my number one play of
This is my
November.
shocked face.
Wow, Ryan, that's your shocked
figured. I was going to be surprised if it wasn't your number one.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's kind of impressive it's not my number one, but we'll get
that.
That
is very impressive.
Yeah.
I mean, Ryan's probably watching me across the table while we're playing this, and I'm just like, when I'm excited about a board game, I outwardly express it more than Ryan does.
Mystery.
So I'm just over there. I'm over here having the time of my life. I mean, for a first play, this was amazing. Like, so good. It really couldn't have been better. I mean, everything that you've said about the simultaneous play, all of that was just absolutely exhilarating. It totally slams the variability, box out, like knocks that out of the park. You're so much variability. I just, and then I think a mechanic I'm realizing I like a lot in games is give me few action choices. So there's only 4 choices, and I think it's helpful in learning a game too, is like, there's only 4 choices on your turn, and they're honestly very simple actions where the heavy thinking comes is when you get all of the, the cards and how they all trigger by the actions. I will say the start of the game, it is like, you get with all the variables set up, it's like, oh my goodness. Okay.
Yeah, and you have to kind of start
public objectives, and there's all of my hand, and there's all the climate and environment.
And you got to start. There's a lot of iconography, or just like you need to start kind of like getting to the point where when you draw a new card from the deck, just from glancing at it, you're like, I know what this does. Like, because I agree that at the very beginning, and when I got a bunch of cards, it was really hard for me to be like, what is the strategy I can build out of this. But it only took a couple turns for me to feel like, okay, it's clicking. I'm kind of getting what's going on here.
Yeah, and I mean, just the whole system, it just works so well, and was so much fun. Very different strategies we were all running with. But man, and to play that short, that's really just kind of the thing that is like, wow. I mean, you talk about games that just deliver bang for their buck in terms of experience they're delivering for the time that it takes. And this is delivering for me similar feeling experiences to what I get in like a Terraforming Mars. I'm not saying it's better than that, but that's the type of game that it feels like. I mean, they're different games, but just that kind of like
you mean, like,
going
as far
through
as getting
cards and kind of building an engine. And with simultaneous play, it's just like, boom, you play a card, boom, trigger, boom. You're constantly like going, and it's just an hour and a half of, yes, this is just
you're
great.
Like constantly doing things that feel
it's
good.
Nonstop, just enjoyment. And neither of us won either. So there you go, Our oldest
older
brother took home the victory. So yeah, Ryan. So this was actually a gift from Ryan to me for Christmas. It had me in a little sibling gift exchange. So thank you, Ryan, because I am so excited to have this one. I mean, to the point of like, I don't think I've ever been so solid on a game just being like, yep, that's not leaving my collection.
Yeah, it's a keeper.
Like,
I'm actually very intrigued to see as we play Earth more, and I, from the one play, bumped it up on my own wish list because I'm feeling a little bit the same way of like, man, I think this is one that I'm gonna want eventually. I'm interested to see as I play more how I feel about it compared to Wingspan, because that's another one that I would say is similar. And they do have differences, like any games you would talk about. But I will say one thing, Earth versus Wingspan, is Earth feels a little bit like doing 3 times as much as what I feel like I do in Wingspan. Yeah, like in Wingspan, sometimes certain birds you only trigger a couple times, or like it's a different feel. So I'm just interested as I play it more. Like, do they feel different enough that I'm like, yeah, these are 2 different experiences that I really like in my collection. But the simultaneous play and the fact that like on other people's turns, we're literally sitting there like excited, waiting to hear which action the person is going to be. And then almost no matter what they pick, you're like, sweet, I get to trigger these things, because you usually have things that can trigger. That's something I don't feel when playing Wingspan, because usually in Wingspan, other people's turns, you don't really care that much what they're doing.
No. Right.
So, and I do enjoy Wingspan a lot, but it is an interesting, I think, comparison. They fall, I think, into a similar time length.
I totally agree. Yeah, I totally agree. That Wingspan was the game that kind of after I played Earth popped into my head, because they're a similar time length, similar feel in the sense of like getting a bunch of cards from a deck, figuring out which ones to play kind of out onto your personal board. I mean, these games do have a lot of
shared objectives.
Shared objectives,
going after those.
Kind of 4 actions, right? You're choosing which of the 4 actions you're going to take.
On cards, and the getting growth on cards, and sometimes you can spend them to. I mean, there's actually a lot of similarities, but they do feel pretty different. And I think the simultaneous play is probably the biggest thing that really makes them feel different.
I think so too. It's just going to be interesting. And again, maybe it was just as we just had a wonderful first play, but after that first play, I think I'm going to like Earth more.
Yeah, I'm interested to see.
And that's crazy because I love Wingspan. I really do love Wingspan, but that's how good this initial play was with Earth. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see. We're almost a year out from our next top games list.
Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see with some more plays under the belt.
I know
it lands, and if I have it by then, because I only put games in my top list if I own them. So
yeah, Ryan just gifts me games to test them out.
To test
before.
them.
Actually, I
It's-
do that for you too. So
Sure.
it's there you go.
There you go.
Secrets out. Well, there we go, Ryan. Those are our top 3 plays of November.
I haven't even done my number 1, Daniel. Earth was my number 2.
that was my number 1, wasn't it?
Daniel just can't fathom that a game would be above Earth. He's ascended.
I just assumed.
He's like Earth.
Oh my god.
Cut. No, I've got one higher than Earth.
Oh my gosh. Unbelievable.
Higher than Earth.
Higher than
And
Earth.
it isn't the game that Daniel gave me for Christmas. We drew each other in our sibling gift exchange.
Yeah, that one I so wanted to put on, but we had a really tough game.
So we played. Daniel got me too many bones. It was actually like a combination birthday Christmas present.
That was a big one.
And we had a fun play of it, but it also was a little bit of a rocky play with a little bit of a rocky ending
and horrific play.
So it would have made like my number 6 or something. But my number 1 that it'll make sense. I don't know if you've thought of it already. It'll make sense once you hear it.
Wait, Santa Elf, the Santa Cookie Elf.
Oh no, I didn't actually play that one. You did. Yeah, the taco goat cheese pizza Christmas version.
The Elf. Cookie.
Yes, I didn't know how that game was played, and I was just listening to you guys play in the other room, and I'm like, what is going on in there?
Oh my gosh! You know what? I had a good time.
My number 1 has to go to Keyforge, and this is because I finally had the opportunity after several years to organize a Keyforge tournament day, which this is now the 3rd time I've done this. We get 8 people together, we do some pool play and then a double elimination bracket. It's kind of a full day thing. You end up getting to play, 7, 8 games of Keyforge. And I had a bunch of sealed decks from the new Winds of Exchange Kickstarter that I had backed. And so everybody, got a sealed deck and opened it. And it just was such a great reminder of how fun that can be, like that type of event. I mean, so far, every time we've done it, it's been like, we've come out of it going like, that's just one of the best gaming day experiences.
Yeah, I'm one of the winners of a previous tournament.
Yes, and I was not, but I am now because I did come out of this one.
Daniel wasn't there. Does that count?
Weird. But yeah, it's just Keyforge is like the perfect game for it, at least for my taste, to be able to just get a unique deck, and like over the day you like learn your deck. And but the strategy of Keyforge and the gameplay of it, I also love. Like I've played it a lot, and I still just like love playing game after game. I think this time also just emphasize like how different people's decks can be. So the Winds of Exchange set has kind of an interesting mechanism where you have these token creatures. So for your deck, it'll say this is your unique token creature, which is some like basic small creature. And all the backs of your cards show the portrait of that creature. And then there's different effects in the game that might say like create a token creature. And you just put a card face down and it is whatever your token creature is. But because it's using the cards face down, like you could potentially get like a lot of them. And some people's decks have dealt more with them than others. So that gave decks a lot more identity, as you compared them. But there just were multiple decks I played other people throughout the day that it was like, you came out of the day being like, oh yeah, you had that deck. Like you really remembered the differences. Our older brother was there and he had this cool deck where his token creatures were these cultists, and he had this huge like monster in his deck that he could like pull off this ritual to summon. And so that was like such a unique, that's what we were calling it, the Cthulhu deck. But it was such a unique feel. And like, as the games are starting to be played, everybody kind of knows John's got that like summoning cultist deck. And then I played this other guy that had this I think it was an artifact that's like Whirlpool that made it at the end of every one of your turns, your rightmost creature rotates to your opponent's side on the left. So it's like the creatures are whirlpooling and switching sides the whole game.
Oh my gosh.
And that completely changes everything. And like the importance of where you play something. I'm like literally playing guys intentionally on the right side of my line that
that your good guys don't.
So that my good guys don't go away, but I'd play ones that capture Amber, which normally would be stuck until they get killed. But once it rotates it, now I can kill my own person to
I get
effectively
it.
steal the
Oh my
amber.
gosh, that's
And
so
so
good.
there just
That's
were
so
so
good.
many little things with that. And I ended up playing my other friend. We had some really close matches, and we ended up meeting 3 times in the tournament, including the in the championship. And he had 3 of this card, and I had 2 of this card. So between the 2 of us, we have 5 of this card called Mass Buyout. That you play it, and it destroys all the creatures, but then gives each player an amber for every 2 creatures that were destroyed. So going into the game knowing that, it's like we know we have all these resets that are going to like give us amber, and like that's what's fun about once you start knowing what the other people's decks are like, is you go in kind of like thinking, how am I going to play this, knowing that this is here. I played another guy that had an artifact that made it that you could not play a creature if you had more creatures than your opponent. And that completely changes things, because sometimes you have a deck that you flood a bunch of creatures, but suddenly and he played it when I had like 4 creatures and he only had 2. So suddenly I am blocked from playing any creatures until like either he plays more or I die. And then when I do get a spot, it's like, I better think about, I don't want to just play any. It just completely changed the feel of it. So it was just such a fun time. I don't know. I feel like Keyforge is in this weird spot where it's kind of marketed to the types of people that want to do like a kind of a lifestyle game and really get into doing competitive play and keeping up with the new sets. I think Ghost Galaxy has announced they're doing like, I think 2 sets a year, which is just a lot of content for it.
A lot of content.
But I would say, like, if you're watching this and you're more of a board gamer that isn't looking for a lifestyle game, you just want to play casually, I still think Keyforge is one of the best of this dueling style game to play casually, because you can get decks for dirt cheap, especially if you're okay going back to older sets. And you can get, just mixing up the decks, pick a deck and play. I think the gameplay really holds up with the interesting decisions and how you play it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was kind of destined to be my top. It was going to take something pretty even better than Earth to beat out the experience of Keyforge that day. It's something I definitely hope to do more of those in the future. But yeah,
well,
it was a great experience.
It's cool when a game can deliver an all-day experience like
there's
that.
There's not a lot of them that fall into that category. Anything, there's like Twilight Imperium is really the big one game, and this is kind of like the other full day thing that I would do.
And I totally agree with you that when I've been a part of it, the fun of you all just get these decks that you've never seen before at the start. So the first game you play, you're finding out what's in my deck. But as you play game after game, you're learning your deck. You're learning other people's decks.
Totally.
And there is just this like fun as the day goes on, as like the characters of the deck really start to come out. I mean, you were talking about how we remember decks. I mean, I know our older brother, and you'll have to remind me a little bit, but he had some deck that in a previous one that had some crazy, like,
he kept drawing cards and had the wild wormhole that would play the top card of his deck, and it would just like cycle.
I still remember that. I mean, it was so cool and crazy. And so, Keyforge is just incredible for that. It's a level playing field in that everyone just gets a random deck. They feel, I think, pretty balanced. I don't think it's super often that you find one that's just like, oh, that's a dud. I mean, and there's obviously some variability, but yeah.
Yeah, and I definitely think obviously this is me coming from winning the tournament, but I do think there is a lot of skill in Keyforge.
Oh my gosh, Ryan.
As evidenced by I've obviously lost the other tournaments, but there's just a lot of decision making and understanding kind of the pacing of, like, because Keyforge is a game you always draw back up to 6. And so keeping the card flow going and which houses you call to do that while still, gathering amber and combating your opponent effectively. It's good. It's got a lot of good
stuff.
Get it.
We get it, Ryan. You're smart.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Also, Heat, very skill-based game.
Easily the most skill-based game we have.
Exactly.
Daniel's just knows nothing. Yep. Okay. Wow. Well, there you go. If there's one thing we learned from this video, Ryan's really smart. There you go.
Yes, and this really is the end of our top games.
This really is. Sorry for cutting. I should have just ended it.
I'm glad I
Sorry,
remembered.
Ryan.
Can you imagine
Yeah,
if
I
you'd been
know.
editing and just like, wait a second.
Oh my gosh. Wait a second. Where's Ryan's number one?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so good. Okay, there you go. That is actually our top 3 plays of November 2023.
Hey, feel free to look down in the description for links to any of the games that we talked about in this video. We also have a link to our new board game recommendation website that we launched recently, where you can look at a lot of different board games that we recommend across a variety of criteria. We actually did kind of a video talking about that launch that's suggested here, as well as another video, and we will see you in the next one.